tablet, so I may look a bit different. I don't know. But here I am, and we'll wait and see if we get some people in here. It's kind of short notice. No one yet, so we'll just wait and see what happens. But I'm here, and I'm live, and that's the way it is. And it always starts out like this. It's always a bit of a waiting game. Well, hello to whoever's out there. I am live. I'm on my tablet, so if it looks a bit different, I don't know if it looks different on your end or how it looks, but I thought I'd try the tablet because I need my phone for other things. Number one, I've been getting a lot of texts, and number two, I've been using it to look up things, so I thought, well, I've got my tablet, so why don't I use my tablet instead? So if it looks different, that's why. Anyway, I am live. I am in Garden City, Kansas. So I have nothing better to do at the moment than to answer whatever questions you may have. I was looking up a couple of things. I was going to wait till we get a couple more people in here. There's a couple of things I've been looking up as far as some new FMCSA rules, some new things going on as far as illegal drivers, illegal alien immigrant drivers and such as that. And I'll touch on that too, and whatever anybody wants to talk about. You know, I'm here. I shaved off the Alaska beard, as you can see, since last time. I figured I'm in civilization now. I need to, you know, look a bit more presentable. So here I am. I'm here till tomorrow at about, well, let me look at my tablet, for another 16 hours. And so I was down to about 7 hours last night, and they're just like, man, just go do your 34. Hey, well, everybody's showing up now. Well, welcome. Like I was just saying, I'm on my tablet, so if it looks a bit different, that's why. Man, you guys always show up, man. I really appreciate it. I know. Oh, by the way, I just like 3 minutes ago got finished talking or texting with a guy from Alaska who owns a trucking company in Alaska. And I talked to him before. Now, he's down in the lower 48. In fact, he's in San Angelo, Texas right now, picking up a load of beef. And he's about to get a big beef contract. Maybe. And if he gets a big beef contract, I told him, give me a call. Because then I could go up back and forth to Alaska and still come home. That would be my perfect job, right? Because I can come home, be with the wife every once in a while, and I could still go to Alaska. Now, I don't think I'll be running the haul road. I don't know. Hello, good evening, hello. But I could at least go to Alaska, right? Hey, hi from the UK. Well, hi I'm in Kansas at the moment, so I appreciate you being here. So yeah, that would be great, man. You know, it really would. If I can get that gig where I can be down here and go to Alaska. But I don't know yet. I'll keep you updated. He said if he gets the contract, I'll be his first phone call. So, I was looking up a few things. It looks like we've got an appeals court that is about to, or that has blocked, what does it say? A move to cancel CDLs for almost 200,000 non-domiciled drivers on Thursday. They want to block the move to get rid of those. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Would you ever drive in UK or Europe? You know what? I would love to. I've thought about it. And if I thought that one of the countries there in the UK or the EU would get me a license, you know, or I could transfer my license to, what do they call it, HGV license, whatever they call them over there, yes, I would do it. I know there's a lot of traffic in Europe, and I'm not good with traffic. But I mean, we have a lot of traffic here in the U.S. too, in the lower 48. But yeah, I would consider it, man. Yeah, anything for any sort of, new adventure in this industry, I would do it. I'd go to Australia in a minute. I'd go to South America in a minute. The UK and Europe would be perfect. Obviously, UK's an English-speaking country, and I've got some people I watch from Europe, and so I know most Europeans know English or know some English. So, yeah, I would definitely do it, man. That would be that would be great. If I just don't know if they would allow it. I don't know if my license would transfer over, but if I could, in a heartbeat, I would. Yes. What I was talking about earlier. So it looks like an appeals court is going to block the administration trying to cancel these non-domicile CDLs for 200,000 drivers. I don't understand the courts, man. And this is not a Trump, non-Trump thing. I don't care if you like Trump, not Trump. I'm not going to get into that with anybody. That's not what this is about. If this was Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, I'd be all for them doing what they're doing. And for these courts to block this is a federal issue, and the Transportation Secretary should be able to do this without any problems. What's bro doing in YouTube? Man, you know what? What's bro doing in YouTube? Bro's live on YouTube. That's what bro's doing in YouTube right now. Bro's live, trying to make a living. Not on YouTube. I don't make a living. I can't get enough subscribers to make a living. No, I don't. I make a living driving a truck. That's what I do. I make a living driving a truck. So maybe I'll go back to Alaska. We'll wait and see what happens. Maybe not. If I can get a gig, like I said, where I can go home and go to Alaska, perfect job. I try to talk these guys into going to Alaska, but they're not going to do it. So anyway, I said something in the video. I guess we had another accident. A truck run off into the median and hit another truck in Arkansas, I believe, and killed the driver of the other truck. I don't know, man. I don't know what we have to do. I don't know what more has to be done. The court that's blocking this said that there's no evidence that there's a lack of safety with these non-domicile CDL holders. And you're like, are you blind? Really? I mean, I get it. The DC appeals court doesn't like the president, but this should have nothing to do with who the president is. This is about safety on the highway. So I don't even understand that, but it is what it is. I don't know, man. The court should not be able to stop the FMCSA or the Transportation Secretary from doing this. The courts have way too much power in this country, and we really need to do something about that, because it's gotten ridiculous. I was just seeing if I had any more text. No. But Oregon's going to hike. They're going to hike their fuel tax to generate revenue. Don't you love that the states are always trying to generate revenue off the backs of the trucking industry? It's always off the backs of the truck. What have I got on my shirt? What that is? I saw it. Anyway, I'm sorry. Got distracted. They're always trying to make money off the backs of the trucking industry, right? It's always, you know why they do that? Because they know the majority of the people paying that, either A, they aren't from they are not from Oregon. Sorry, I can't talk. Or B, if they're truck drivers in Oregon, I'm sorry, truck drivers just don't vote. They just don't vote, man. And they know that. They know who votes and who doesn't vote, right? Even if you register, if you don't vote, they know it. they know it real quick. They can go on. There's a list, and the majority of truck drivers just don't vote regularly, so they can hike taxes. They can hike fuel taxes, and if you're an owner operator in Oregon, chances are you don't vote, or like I say, you don't live there, so it doesn't matter. Same thing with Illinois, hiking the toll rates 30%. I don't care. Right? Most of the guys paying that don't live in Illinois, so I ain't got to worry about them voting, against the governor or whatever, and like I say, if they do live there, chances are they don't vote, so who cares, right? Who cares? Anyway, anyone got any questions, man? Just fire them away. I got nothing else to do tonight. After I get done here, I'm probably gonna go for a walk, try to get a little exercise or something. I'm getting a little, although I have lost almost 20 pounds in the last 6 months, so I'm doing better than I was. And I just do that from eating one meal a day. Most of the time. I eat a lot today. Which oil field did you work in? I worked in the oil field in the Texas Panhandle. Well, Texas Panhandle, Western Oklahoma, Southwest Kansas, that patch there. I've worked in the Bakken up in North Dakota. I've worked up there as well. I haven't worked down in Midland, Odessa. I had a chance to work out of a place in outside of Pecos a few years ago down there, and I didn't take it. I don't remember why I didn't take it. Oh, I was working here, and they offered me a fancy truck and all that, and so I just, whatever. What happened to your beard? I'm crying. Man, I have to look civilized. I'm back in civilization, so I don't know. I just figured I'd get rid of it. It was hard, man. I sat in the bathroom in front of the mirror for I don't know how long. Any of you guys know, right? You cultivate a beard, and it's like how was the money working in the oil field? The money was okay. It's kind of slow in the Panhandle. So I wasn't making any more than I'm making now. I was making less than I was making in Alaska. But now when they're booming, like when Midland, Odessa down in the Permian Basin was booming, those guys were banking. North Dakota was okay, but that was kind of after the boom in Williston and all that. So the oil field, you got to hit it at the right time. If you hit it at the right time, when somebody hits a well in the Panhandle tomorrow, man, it's all of a sudden, all these companies are going to pop up out of nowhere. Every house is going to be filled. Every hotel room is going to be filled. The price of everything is going to go up, and the pay will go up. So that's the oil field wasn't bad. I liked working in the oil field. I like driving off road. Let me tell you something. If you want to go to Alaska and you want to drive the Dalton or the ice roads, it doesn't matter where you're from. I don't care if you're from Florida, okay? I don't care if you're from Texas, California, Arizona, any of the states where they don't get a lot of snow. Does not matter. That does not matter. Get you a job driving in the oil field, preferably somewhere in the western U.S., like Texas or New Mexico or Colorado or something like that, where it's dusty and it's hot and the road, you're running a lot of off-road. That is your best preparedness for running Alaska. That's why there's so many guys from Texas and Oklahoma and places like that in Alaska running the haul road right now. I don't care if you guys from Wisconsin who, I worked as a derrick man in California, never worked that hard in my life. It is hard work, yeah. I didn't know there's much oil field left in California, man. They've shut so much of it down. There's a lot of oil in California, especially down around Bakersfield. I mean, there's a town outside of Bakersfield called Oildale. You go through there and there's pump jacks everywhere. It looks like you're driving through the Permian Basin in Texas. There's a lot of them. Long Beach area, yes, Long Beach area. There's a lot of rigs. A lot of those rigs, you don't even know they're there. They build a facade around them. A lot of the drilling rigs, and they'll be right. Used to be back in the day when California was run by normal people. Sorry about just saying. they would drop a rig right in the middle of Los Angeles or Long Beach, like the guy was talking about. There was rigs all over the place out there. And, you know, they would put a facade around them where you didn't even know there was a rig there. And there's a lot of oil in California, a lot of oil. But they just, I used to run them down to 101 and you'd see the rigs out there, you know. But they shut all that down. I think they're still fracking. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone from California, but I think they may still be doing some fracking around Bakersfield or outside of Bakersfield. I don't know, maybe not. Gavin Newsom's probably not a fan. I don't know. But anyway, but what I was saying was, driving in an oil field for a while, 6 months, a year or something. Not sure I moved away in 2018. Yeah, you and a lot of other people moved out of California. But get your job driving in an oil field. You know, driving off-road all day, driving on lease roads all day. You're running basically the same kind of trucks. You're running trucks with full lockers, with a high underneath clearance, you know, traction tires, all that. Pretty much the same trucks. Long Beach was not Long Beard. When will we lose? What will we lose next? Oh, yeah. But not Long Beard, yeah. I don't know, man. I just had to. It was hard. It was hard to shave it. I stood there, like I was saying earlier, for a while. And I'm like, man, it's like getting rid of a kid or something, you know? It took me a while to grow that. And so, anyway. I had to, you know, I kept asking my wife. I said, but do you like it? She goes, it's okay if you want. My wife's always like that. She's like, well, it's whatever you want, you know. And I'm like, no, it's not whatever I want. What do you want me to shave it off? And she's like, well, you know, it's up to you. I said, okay. That, when she says that, that means she doesn't like it. So I got rid of it. I'll never get rid of my beard completely. You'll never see me without a beard, you know. But I got, excuse me, I got rid of the long beard. But anyway, yeah, try to get your job driving in an oil field for, you know, 6 months at least, a year. Learn how to drive off-road. It's a totally different world than driving up down. If you're from Wisconsin, if you're going to come to me and you say, well, I'm from Wisconsin, I'm from Minnesota, I know, you know what, I don't even, no, that means absolutely nothing in Alaska. Absolutely nothing. Being from the northern U.S. really doesn't do you a lot of good, except maybe you have some warm socks. That's about it. But as far as driving, no, it's not the same thing. Thanks for answering my questions. Got to go. Have a good night. Hey, have a good night. No worries, man. No worries. I appreciate you coming on, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. It does you absolutely no good just because you drove up and down the interstate in Wisconsin. You know, that means nothing. Get you a job driving off-road, either hauling crude oil, production water, or anhydrous or something like that, where you're going out to these ranches or farms even. Doesn't even have to really be oil field related. A lot of these guys pulling these hopper bottoms, you know, they're out there, they do some off-road. Excuse me. Some of the cattle haulers, you know, stuff like that, where you get off the paved road, you know. The great thing about the oil field, like when I was working in the Texas Panhandle, they build these lease roads. The oil companies build them, and they don't do a fantastic job, because they'll tell you, we're an oil company, we're not a road builder. And we don't have mountains in the Panhandle, but we have a lot of canyons. And they'll build a road where you drop right straight down in the canyon, and then straight up. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's straight up, you know, straight down, straight up, straight down, straight up, like that. And you learn real fast how to get up and down, you know, roads like that. Really narrow gravel roads. They turn into mud when it rains, and that's your best way to get experience. And then, of course, your next logical step after you conquer that, go to Alaska, run the Dalton. I don't know if I ever run the Dalton again, not because I don't want to, it's just if I did, I'd have to stay up there like I did. And I was up there a year and a half. I literally lived in a truck with the exception of 2 weeks when I went home last November, I lived in a truck for a year and a half. I mean, no motel rooms, no staying with anyone. I lived inside a truck for a year and a half. And I really thought it would drive me crazy, but I was good. You know, well, it's like this truck. I have a microwave. I actually have a microwave up here with an air fryer and all that, so I can cook anything I want. For refrigerator, you know, I had the whole 9 yards. So it was pretty good. I mean, it gets a bit. I mean, I was outdoors a lot in the summer. Even in the winter, I tried to be outdoors a lot. It's a little more difficult in Fairbanks. The first winter, or the first half of the winter, I spent in Fairbanks. And it's difficult in Fairbanks in the winter. Now, you get down to Anchorage, Palmer area, Wasilla, and it's way more manageable. That's more of a lower 48 type winter, you know. So it's a bit more manageable down that way, and you can get out more. God, there's so much stuff, so much hiking you can do up there, especially in the summer, man. I mean, you're almost forced to go outdoors. You know, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. There's just so much to do outdoors in Alaska in the summer that, I mean, I just don't see how you could just sit in the house or sit in your truck or whatever. I mean, you almost have to go outside. You know, it's just really, really beautiful. I do miss it. I really do miss it. Seeing any Bigfoot? No. You know what's funny? Any of you guys, especially drivers, remember Art Bell? Remember he used to come on at midnight? And they had a guy who supposedly was from the Texas Panhandle who claimed to have killed a Bigfoot. I don't know if anybody remembers that episode, or I'm the only weirdo that remembers that episode. But here's the reason why. I was living in Dallas at the time. My wife is from the Panhandle, right? From where we're at now, from Shamrock, Texas. She used to go to a place called Elm Creek. Elm Creek's one of the few places up there where there's actually water. And they would fish. And she said her and her little brother got stuck out there one time after dark. And she heard screaming. Like some kind of animal screaming. And I remembered that story about Bigfoot. And I told her about that. And she goes, oh my God, that's the first thing I thought of. That's what it reminded me of. Like, she goes, if a Bigfoot would scream, that's what I thought it could have been. And so, I don't know. Maybe there's a Bigfoot or Big Feet, whatever the hell you'd call them, around where I live. I don't know. But I remember that old Art Bell episode where that guy claimed that he shot a Bigfoot in the Texas Panhandle. And I don't know. But now I never saw any Bigfoots. Bigfoot. Saw a lot of bears. A lot of bears. I saw more wildlife on the Alaska Highway than I saw on the Dalton. I would see a few bears on the Dalton. I got a video, I think. Well, I got the one still picture of the polar bear I saw on the slope. It's on here. And I've got the video, I think, that's got a bear in it. And of course, I saw a lot of caribou on the Dalton, but the Alaska Highway, man, I saw Arctic bison, I saw sheep, I saw moose, bear, caribou, reindeer. It's all kind of crap. The Alaska Highway, man, just eat up with wildlife. Just eat up with it. And there are no fences. There are no fences. Once you get that far north, there are no fences. So they can just come on the road. Now they cut the trees back so you can see them before they just come right out on the highway. But I used to see these guys in the summer, especially guys on the motorcycles and some of these tours, and they just go flying down the Alaska. And I don't understand why you do that. You can't see much scenery when you're driving fast like that, but that's what they do. And they go flying around these corners like, dude, do you realize if there was a herd of Arctic bison laying on that road, you'd never stop in time. It would kill you on a motorcycle. And they do. Arctic bison regularly just lay out on the road, on the Alcan. They don't care. Arctic bison, they give 0 Fs, man. They don't care. And they'll sit there and, oh wait, Art Bell was yes, he was. You need a haircut. Yeah, you're right, because it's getting long. You're right, it is. It's getting long. Yep, I agree. I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm going home Thanksgiving. I'm gonna get the wife to, do her thing. But yeah, Art Bell was Art Bell kept many of us truck drivers awake overnight, man. Right? Back in the day. But he's gone now. He died. I can't believe he died. That's wild. I know they got that guy George Norrie, I guess, that does it now. I haven't listened to it in years, but some of that stuff really make you think, Obviously some of it, you couldn't believe all of it, right? And I don't think Art Bell believed all of it, but he'd let them talk. He'd let people talk. He'd let them, say whatever they wanted to say, and that was cool. But yeah. But anyway, I never saw a Bigfoot up there. I don't know. Maybe if I went camping overnight, a lot of guys go bear hunting up there and moose hunting. I don't know. There's a lot of strange stuff in Alaska, though, because, there's so many unexplored areas in Alaska. They will have reruns of his shows on. Oh, okay. Okay. Good. I might have to check that out, because I missed Art Bell. Every night at midnight, back in the day. I think I said this in a video, maybe my last video. About 10 till midnight, you start cruising. This is before the internet, kids. You start cruising around. I mean, we did have internet then, but it's before we had smartphones. Let me rephrase that. We had internet, we didn't have smartphones yet. And so we were still using the radio. And you'd start cruising around on the dial trying to find an AM station, either one that's close or a big 50,000 watt, like WOAI in San Antonio or WLS in Chicago, or what's that, KOMO in Oklahoma City, and then a big one in Wyoming, and I forget where he was on in Los Angeles. I used to listen to KFI in Los Angeles, but they didn't play Art Bell, I don't think. But yeah, that's what you start cruising around the dial to find a good station and hope that you could hold that station all night. You didn't miss anything, And that was before we had smartphones, and like I said, we had the internet, but you couldn't go online. And WKRP in Cincinnati, yeah. I don't know if they did Art Bell or not, man. I don't know. It seemed like maybe Johnny Fever would have been an Art Bell fan. What do you think? I don't know. Maybe Herb. I don't know. Yeah, I used to watch that show myself. I always loved radio, man. I always said if I didn't get in the trucking industry, I'd have got into radio. The thing is about radio, number one, I have a terrible voice. But number two, it's not the same now. You don't really, radio's not what it used to be. The DJs have no say in what they play, and it's all corporate, and it's just not the same. It's different. Everybody's going to podcasts now, and that's fine. And nothing wrong with that. Things progress, as they say. I like it. The trucking industry, I can put in a podcast or something and listen to it while I'm going down the road, and it's great entertainment, and you can go back and listen to it over and over again, and you learn things. I like to listen to a lot of stuff about World War II and Napoleon. I like history, so things like that, World War I, and just crap like that. I'm a nerd when it comes to stuff like that. I really am. But of course, the Y-Files. And you guys watch the Y-Files. The Y-Files is sort of like modern day Art Bell, right? Because he comes up with this crazy stuff, and the difference between Art Bell and the Y-Files is, if you never watched the Y-Files, WHY, on YouTube, listen to it, especially if you're into that kind of stuff, like government psyops or UFOs or anything. If it's just that entertainment, I'm not saying you have to believe all of it, but the Y-Files is sort of like the modern day Art Bell. Only difference is he talks about the stuff, and then at the end he'll kind of debunk a lot of it, like, did this really happen? Well, let's look at it. And he'll go through, stuff like that. But so I'll listen to the Y-Files. You know, a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't be watching YouTube videos while you're driving. No, I'm not watching YouTube videos. I'll listen to them while I'm driving. Yeah, that right. It's good. Yeah, man. Yeah, the Wi-Fi. Sometimes I'll listen to that, or I'll listen to it while I'm unwinding, while I'm eating dinner or something, things like that. The internet is a boon to this industry. It really is, because when I first started, smartphones, when I first started driving, you had to stop and call in every day. And if they needed you, they would turn your fuel card off. But there was no calling you in the phone, in the truck. You know, there was very few people had truck phones. I remember was a CFI come out with they had that Highway Master that had a phone in the truck. This was just before cell phones. And everybody, oh wow, that's cool, man, you got a phone right there. And I know some guys had bag phones. You know, some companies, small companies, they give them a bag phone, which was a phone with a bag. You carried a bag around, had a big giant battery in it. I mean, you could pick up a signal on the moon with this thing, because the bigger the battery, the better the range. And this thing had a big, huge battery. And you guys my age, you remember bag phones, right? And some guys had that, but we didn't really have cell phones per se. So they would turn you loose. Don't you still use CB radio? You know, here's the thing with CB radios, and it's going to be a bit controversial, because I know a lot of guys are like, you know, well, that's the problem with the trucking industry today. Nobody has their CB on. Here's the thing with CB radio down here. Now, Alaska, they're a must. You must have your CB on. I don't mean it's a law or anything, but I mean, it's just an unwritten rule, especially on the Dalton. You must have your CB radio on, because you must be able to communicate. You have no business going up there without a CB radio, or VHF radio even, for that matter, but especially a CB radio. So Alaska, a must. Here's the problem in the lower 48. You could turn your CB radio on at any given time, on any given road, in any given part of the lower 48, and what you're going to hear is a bunch of guys either cussing each other out, somebody's playing their stereo over the CB, or some guy's got a base station somewhere that is drowning everybody else out, and you can't hear anything, and they don't give a damn. That's what you hear on the CB. Also, most people in Alaska bring a satellite phone. Yep. Starlink has been a boon up there, man. Yeah, we had some of our trucks when I was at Minn, Alaska. Some of their trucks have Starlink, some don't. The reason why I didn't put them in all trucks is because he had a flat rate, but if you went over so many minutes, it would charge him more money. And a lot of these guys were like listening to podcasts and stuff, going up and down to Dalton, and it was just eating up his minutes. So he started getting kind of like, you know, like my truck. When I got a newer truck, I was like, man, you gonna put Starlink in there? And he's like, man, I don't know. You know, these guys are bleeding me dry with this. You know, they're listening to all this stuff. And so he said, I might, but I never, you know, I left before he ever made the decision. But yeah, that's the problem with CB radios down here. You can't, there's nothing serious on them anymore. You can't get any information on them. All you get is crap. That's all there is crap on there. I'm not going to sit there and listen to it. I'm not going to sit there and listen to two guys talk about their dogs, or, you know, having conversations on 19. Like, take that crap. You got 40 channels on that radio, man. Or like I said, some guy playing a stereo. I don't want to hear your stereo, bro. I got a stereo in my own truck. I don't need to hear that crap. But I don't understand the mentality of those guys like that. I don't understand the guy who's listening to a song and decide, I'm gonna key up on the mic on my CB and play it. Bro, we all got stereos, man. We're good. We don't need to hear your crap. But so I give up on listening to CB down here. I'll turn it on sometimes. You know, I mean, I'll have it on. I have it on all the time. But sometimes I'll turn it up, and they'll start a bunch of, what's that, a gnat or something right there? I don't know what that is. Huh. Yeah, some kind of gnat or fly or something. It's been unusually warm, so there's still flies around. But you know, I'll turn it up. I say, okay, well, let me turn the radio up, and it won't be on 30 seconds. There'll be some guy playing a stereo. Like I said, some two guys having a conversation about their car or their dog or something like that. And I'm like, I'll turn it back down. Let's do a podcast. But, you know, that's... I can get weather on my phone instantly. I don't need to holler at a guy and ask him what the weather's doing up the road. As far as way stations, I'm not really... The great thing about working here is we go pretty much the same places. We run pretty much the same routes all the time. I know where all the way stations are. I know most of the ones that when they're open, when they're not open. If I have to even worry about them, most of the time I don't. But, so... I don't know, maybe if I was running down to the southeast or the northeast or somewhere I don't go to very often and I haven't been there in years, you know, I'll try to listen to it more. But really, you know, like I know it's controversial. I know a lot of guys will get mad at me for saying it, but it's just, there's crap on the CB, man. I mean, no one, it's not what it used to be. You know, it's just not. So if you want to get mad at me for saying I don't listen to the CB much anymore, okay, we'll clean it up, man. You know, that's the problem with the industry in the lower 48. We're going to have to start self-policing. The guys throwing trash on the ground. The guys throwing piss bottles on the ground. The guys who get on the CB and just bump their gums needlessly. Stuff like that. You know, and there's other things I guess I could think about. We really need to start self-policing. You see a guy throw trash on the ground, you say, hey man, pick that up. This is why we can't park in a lot of places, because guys like you throw trash on the ground. Pick that piss bottle up. There's trash. You go to Love's, man, there's trash cans everywhere. Every fuel pump, there's a trash can. And there's trash cans in other areas. Throw it in the trash, bro. Throw it in the trash. I got a big trash bag. In fact, I just threw mine away. And I'll throw my little trash bags in the big trash bag, because I know I'm either going to Greeley, Colorado, or Garden City, Kansas pretty quick. And we got dumpsters, and I'll throw it in the dumpster. But there's absolutely zero excuse to throw trash on the ground. Zero. But guys do that, and then we can't park anywhere. And then they bitch about, oh, well, man, they won't let us park. Well, no, because you throw trash on the ground, bro. That's why they won't let you park. Or like, I think I told this story about the place in South Carolina I used to go to back in the day. And pooping in the park. I was just saying, yeah, pooping in the parking lot. Exactly the story I was talking about. I don't know if you knew what I was talking about, but yeah. They used to let us park there. It was a customer. I can't remember if it was U.S. Foods or somebody like that. But and the guy's like, oh, you can't park here anymore. Because a guy took a crap on the ground. He dropped trowel in the middle of the parking lot, copped a squat, and squeezed one off right there. And the people in the apartment complex next door, somebody looked out and saw him. And they called the company over there and complained about it. And the boss said, no more truck parking. And they had a portable crapper. The guy could have walked about 1,500 feet. But to a truck driver, 1,500 feet, you might as well be asking the guy to walk around the globe as to walk 1,500 feet. Because they're not going to do it. Most of them will barely walk to the back of their trailer. Right? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just saying. We've all seen those guys. And so, yeah. So we couldn't park there anymore. And it's like, well, I didn't do it. It's not my fault. I know, but you can't just... See, I would. If I were that company, I would ban that guy. I wouldn't just shut the parking lot off to every driver. I would ban that driver. I would call his company and I would tell them what their driver did, and I would say he is no longer allowed on our property. That's how you put a stop to that crap. That we have cameras everywhere now. Everywhere. You can identify that company and they know what driver was at that shipper or customer that day. They know it. Or give them a truck number. If you're in a private parking area somewhere and you are letting guys park and some guy throws trash out, you got cameras out there, call that company and say, I do not want that driver back on my property. You start doing that. Same thing with these guys on the fuel island. I get it. Booting them does no good, because then they're permanently there if you boot them until they take the boot off. You can't get a tow truck out there fast enough. What you do is you start, finding out who these guys are and start calling their company and say, and I know you want the business. I get it. Start telling them, say, look, you need to tell your drivers, get fuel, get the hell off of the fuel island, or we're going to have to ban you from getting fuel. And look, like I said, I know they don't want to do that. But I think like Loves and Pilot and all them, I think they're getting enough business where they can afford to, if they have to ban 2 or 3 guys. I know a lot of guys try to say it's the immigrant drivers doing it, and there are a lot of those guys doing it, yes. But there are some American drivers, let's be honest, there are some American drivers who do it as well. Excuse me. And we need to start policing ourselves with this stuff, man. We're grown adults, we're grown. Do you do that in your car when you're at home? Do you just throw trash on the ground? Are you just a piece of crap like that you just throw trash on the ground? Do you piss in a bottle and throw it on the ground? I mean, why? Why would you do that? I don't understand it. But that's why we can't park anywhere, man. Not the drop they were expecting. Yeah, that's true. That definitely wasn't the drop they were expecting, dude. No. But it happened. And look, I used to watch this guy and his wife from the UK, and they have the same problem. They're talking about they'd go someplace and park, and some dude took a crap under his trailer with the toilet paper and everything. I mean, I'm trying to be gross, but with the toilet paper and everything down there. And it's like, oh wow, so it's not just in the States where they're doing this. And it's like, what the hell, man? I don't know. I don't know what we do about that, but something needs to be done, man. I don't understand this industry. I was listening to Victor Davis Hanson. I don't know if y'all listen to Victor Davis Hanson. If you're not into politics, you probably don't, but he's a great historian too. But he was talking about, because he lives in California, he was talking about the non-domicile CDL drivers out there and how they're wreaking havoc on the highways. And he was saying, truckers used to be respected. We used to have sympathy for these guys. They talk about some car cutting them off and acting crazy and all that. I'm in the UK, and it's 89% immigrants doing it. Disgusting. Oh, I'm sure it's a different culture. Yeah, they have no problem doing it. So yeah, I perfectly believe that. But anyway, Victor was talking about, they were the best of the best as far as drivers, right? And when I started driving, it was the same thing. When I started driving, the only people I had to worry about were the people in the cars. Now I have to worry about people in the cars and other truck drivers, because I don't know who that fool is that I'm passing, and if he's going to just decide to drift over into my lane while I'm in the middle of passing him for whatever reason. But yeah, a lot of it, let's be honest, it's a cultural thing with some people. They don't care. They come from a country where they're crapping in a creek somewhere, right? So they come over here, or the UK, or any civilized Western nation, and they don't care. They just squeeze one off wherever they feel the need to do it. It's not a big deal to them. So yeah, it is a lot of those guys. But where was I talking? Oh, anyway, you're supposed to be a professional, man. I mean, this stuff, people see that. Look, they have to deal with that. When I go into a shipper, and a lot of times today, it's a lot better than it used to be. Back in the day, they would treat you like total crap. They're a little better today. But if I go into a shipper or a customer and I get a little bit of attitude from the person behind the window, I don't take it personally, because I don't know who she's been dealing with or he's been dealing with. They may have been dealing with some guy who just came before me who had to stick his phone in her face because he can't speak English. And so he's got to have somebody translate. Or some guy hadn't bathed in 6 months and his aroma is filling the entire room, right? stuff like that. Or some guy who's pissed off at the world because he's got a 10 a.m. appointment and they won't let him back in at 9:30. You know, so I try to be a little understanding about it. And a lot of times, if you go in there and they see that you don't have that attitude and that you're actually like, you have a couple of brain cells to rub together, they'll kind of soften some, you know, a lot of times. Sometimes they won't. It's whatever, you know. I don't take it, I used to take it personally. I don't take it personally anymore. Because I realize, I don't know who she's been dealing with, you know. How many idiots has she been dealing with today? How many idiot drivers have come in there and they can't back up, or like I said, they can't speak English or whatever. The smelly guys, you know. So I don't take it for excuse me. I don't take it personally anymore. But yeah, we've got to do something with this. Number one, get rid of the guys who can't speak English, and then clean ourselves up, and this industry may be able to recover, but I don't know. And by then they'll have autonomous trucks and everybody will be doing something else. You know what, I don't think that's going to, autonomous trucks are going to be good for guys, good for runs. Like, they're running them between Dallas and Houston right now, autonomous trucks. There's a company out of Dallas that's running them to Houston and back. And then there's a company in Houston that won't start running them to San Antonio and back. And then the company in Dallas won't start running them to Phoenix and back. But they're not going to be able to do everything. They're not going to be able to do oil field work, although there is an autonomous truck out in Midland in the Permian Basin right now running sand, frac sand. My understanding. So I don't know. Any accidents? Have I had any accidents? Yeah, I've had it. Let's see. Last winter, I took a load down to Montana, and it was bad. The weather, in fact, the weather was worse down there than it was in Alaska. It was like -20, and it had some snow, and it was slick. It wasn't just like the dry powder snow. It was that kind of slicker, lower 48 snow. You know, I don't know. It's just slick, you know. And I was going, we have a yard in Billings, Montana. Well, I say we, I don't work there anymore, but you know what I mean. No, I meant autonomous vehicle. Oh! I don't think they've had any major accidents. I don't think. They may have had a fender bend. I know when they were running those cars in San Francisco, some of those Tesla cars, they one of them had an accident a while back. But trucks, I don't think they've had any accidents. I don't think. I'm sorry. I thought you meant me. I was going to say, you know, I had somebody slide into me in Montana last winter. Somebody in a car. It wasn't a big deal, but yeah, I don't think they've had anything major. I would imagine if and when that day comes, simply because the law of averages is going to happen, you know, a lot of people are going to be saying, that's it, get rid of them, that's it. You know, and it's like, yeah, but how many humans have had accidents that same day, you know? So I don't think they've had any major accidents. But there's still going to be driving out there that humans are going to have to do. So my advice to anybody who's worried about autonomous trucks, make yourself as needed as possible. In other words, do things besides just hold a steering wheel. You know, be that guy who can do anything that needs to be done in the trucking industry. You know, and you'll keep your job longer. That's what the whole AI thing is about. That's the whole 5G. When we went to 5G, all that is for autonomous vehicles. The 5G and all that. These vehicles run off 5G. That's my understanding. I'm not an expert, but my understanding is the reason why we went to 5G was for that. A computer controlling a 40-ton vehicle. What could go wrong? Yeah, exactly. No, I get you. Yeah. I can see problems. But at the same time, will we get to the point to where that's the norm, right? Like, you have to start somewhere. I'm not saying that I'm for them or against them. I'm just saying that's what they'll tell you. Well, we have to start somewhere. I personally think they should build, and this would cost a lot of money, and I get it, which is why we're not going to do it. I would build a separate road for them. Like, you wanted to run them between Dallas and Houston, that's fine. Build a separate road on the side with good guardrails, so if they go off, they're just going to bounce back and forth like a bumper car, and they can run into each other or whatever, and let them do that. And then there could be a depot on the Houston end and a depot on the Dallas end, and that's where they stop, and that's where the humans get in, and they take them into the city, and they do their drop and reload, back out to the depot, fire them up, put in the computer, boop, 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 back to Dallas, and they take off. Put fuel in them, whatever you got to do. That's what I would do. But that would cost a fortune. But here's the thing. They want to build high-speed rail, right, between Dallas and Houston that nobody's going to use. You know, no one's going to use this high-speed rail. Very few people. Because what's going to happen? You get on this train in Houston, you get on the high-speed rail. Oh, we're in Dallas in an hour. Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, now what do you do? Now you got to get an Uber to go wherever you need to go, right? And that's going to cost you a lot of money. You know, so it's not feasible. So why not, instead of doing that, build the road for the autonomous trucks and let them go back and forth? Because look, there's a lot of freight. Anybody run I-45 between Dallas and Houston? It's bad. 24 hours a day and night. There's traffic, trucks, cars, a lot of containers coming up out of the port, going to DFW. Just a lot of freight running between DFW and Houston. And I personally would not mind if they took some of that freight and put it on a separate road. And if that you want to do that with autonomous trucks, go for it. Go for it. There's still plenty of jobs out there. I mean, if we get rid of 200,000 non-domicile CDL holders, there's plenty of freight you can put on an autonomous truck and run them on a separate road. And you could do that with a lot of roads. You know, just run when they build an interstate, especially, there's a lot of land, a lot of right-of-way land on either side. And they could put a road, you know. And, of course, then you got to build ramps over them, you know, or under them. And that kind of turns into something. You'd have to build them up, maybe, you know, above ground, like an elevated thing or something. So you could have your exits on and off. Not a big fan of autonomous trucks. There haven't been enough testing that anyone could say there's I understand what you're saying, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say they're gonna tell you the only way we can test them is to put them out there and let them run. That's it. So I don't know. But I think the bigger problem we're having is the electric trucks. And here's the deal with that. Our power grid cannot, if we went this was a fallacy of the whole last administrations. We're going to have so many electric vehicles by 2030, whatever. The power grid won't handle it. It won't, it would not. Could you imagine a power grid if you had, say, 1 million trucks plug in overnight? You'd collapse the grid. We'd be living literally in the dark ages. You just totally collapse the grid. The grid couldn't handle it. I know, who's it? Pepsi in Sacramento had some electric trucks, or they have some electric trucks. And they asked the guy running that warehouse, you know, are you going to go all electric? And he's like, well, I talked to the city about it, but they told me no, I can't. Because I'd collapse the grid if I had, whatever, 20, 30 trucks plugged in at one time. And I think he has 3 right now or something. So, yeah, the electric trucks to me is the bigger problem. I mean, the autonomous trucks are a problem because they're on the highway. I don't know, man. I've passed those trucks when I was in Dallas. Now, back then, I had a guy in the truck. It was autonomous, but they had a human sitting in it. And he would just monitor things. Now, my understanding is there's no one in them at all. They just do their thing. I don't know how I feel about it. There's going to be an accident. It's going to happen. Just the law of averages. The more that are out there. Here's the problem. Okay, this is the way it was explained to me by a guy who is an IT guy. An autonomous vehicle is perfectly safe if it's on the road with other autonomous vehicles, because computers are logic. It's all logic, right? You see an obstacle, you avoid it. They had a change point at a garage, and he followed the line around the building, and it was a huge 3-ton diesel generator with black smoke puffing. They had a change point at a garage. Oh, I'm not sure what you're getting. Are you talking about an autonomous truck that was doing that? The problem is, what I was saying was, autonomous truck, they see an object and they move. How long do the batteries last until they need to be recharged? Electric trucks are going to be a flop, just like the electric car. I don't know. I don't know enough about that to be able to tell you how long the batteries last. Of course, it depends on the weather. The colder it is, the more weight there is, things like that. I just don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Sorry, the charge points for electricity. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. It was an electric generator, a diesel generator charging the vehicles. That's another thing. Yeah. Where do you think that power comes from? Exactly. And they want to shut all these power stations down that are using coal or hydroelectric or nuclear. Yeah, no, I get what he's saying now. I'm sorry, I'm a little thick sometimes. Yeah, I get what he's saying. Yeah, you want to shut down all the... Look, let me tell you something. You know the biggest exporter of wind and solar equipment is on this planet? China. You know what else China does? China opens 2 coal-fired plants a day. 2 a day. You think they do this crap to themselves? Hell no. They don't do this because they know it's all bogus, man. They know it doesn't work. They know you cannot run a modern economy on wind and solar, and you cannot run a modern economy with electric truck. You just cannot do it. And they know it. But they'll sell that crap all day long to us stupid Americans and stupid Europeans and stupid Australians who have nothing better to do than destroy ourselves because we're idiots. We have idiots running our countries, right? They fly around in their private... Now you done got me worked up. They fly around in their private jets while they tell you that you're killing the planet, right? You're killing the planet. You. I was going off this way somewhere. You. Me. We're killing the planet, right? But they fly around in their private jets. Leonardo DiCaprio flies around in this private jet to climate conferences to tell us that we're killing the environment and we need more wind and solar. So China exports that crap to us. And then meanwhile, they're opening 2 coal plants a day in China. Make that make sense. They know exactly what the hell they're doing. They know exactly. But we would collapse the grid, man. If we went all electric, we'd collapse. But you get stupid politicians like the last administration who said by 2035, I believe it was, we should be all electric. Because that fool has no idea what the hell he's talking about. He's never had a real job. He doesn't know. That's the problem with the United States. And I'm sure it's the same thing in Europe, the UK, and Australia, and New Zealand, and all these other Western countries where we've gotten fat, stupid, and lazy, and we just allow these politicians to make these decisions for us, and they have no idea what they're doing. They never had a job. They go straight from law school into politics. That's what they do. If you want to know why, and again, I'm trying not to get political here, but if you want to know why so many people like Trump, and you can like Trump, you can hate Trump, I really don't care, but because the guy had a job. He was a builder before this. And we here in the United States are sick and tired of people who did nothing but go to college and then get out and go straight into politics. They'll go get a law degree, right? But they never use it. They just go straight into politics. And that's the problem. Okay, if every building in a city used solar roofs, maybe they might be able to sustain the city, but you would have to have high producing panels, not what we have today. Well, maybe, but what if you're in the Pacific Northwest where it's cloudy a lot? What if you're in Alaska or northern Canada where, it's dark in the winter so much? The problem with solar is you cannot store that energy for any length of time. All right, and there again, I'm not an expert, and I'm going by what experts have told me. You just can't store that energy. So if you don't have it, then you don't have it. You can store it in a battery for so long, but not for very long. I forget what the length of time is. So if you don't have it, you don't have it. So if it's cloudy for 3 days in Seattle, you're screwed. What do you do then? That's the problem with it. Look, you want unlimited, safe power, cheap power, nuclear. Natural gas. Natural gas is abundant. It's clean. It's safe. Nuclear. Everybody wants to go back to 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl and all that. My God, man. Come on, man. We're not using horses and buggies anymore either, We've advanced since then. Besides, you can build small nuclear plants. Really small. That could power like your whole neighborhood. And you could put them all around the city. They're small enough to where they don't pose a danger. Look, right now, we've got nuclear-powered subs, nuclear-powered ships all over the planet, in the oceans, as we speak right now. They're everywhere. And they've been doing it for decades now, without any problems. So it can be done safely. It can be done safely. But the problem is, again, you get these politicians who have no idea. But it's all we need to go all, electric by a certain date. They don't know that it can't be done. They don't really care because they're either going to be dead by then or they're going to be out of office. They don't give a damn. They throw that crap out there and then they move on with their life. Now Bill Gates, after telling us that the world's going to end, all of a sudden saying, well, climate change isn't really that bad. Yeah, Bill, because you've invested a lot of money in some other things here lately, haven't you, Bill? Because it's all bogus, man. Dude, it's all bogus. I'm not even going to get into all this stuff, but I'm just telling you. They lie so much to us. Even if the U.S. carbon emissions went to zero, we'd be back to some global levels in 5 years. Because of China. Oh, wait, we'd be in places that this would never work for sure. Hamsters on wheels. Agree. Nuclear's the way to go. I lived near 3 Mile Island back in the day. They had the meltdown. I know the risk. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it does no good. Look, here's the thing. China would love for us to destroy ourselves like this because they're not going to do it. Right? China's not going to do it. But China knows that the US, the UK, the EU, all these other Western nations are run by a bunch of cowardly politicians who are afraid of their own shadow. And they will bow down to the climate gods and, they will do this crap. They will destroy the country in the name of progress. You think China's going to do that? Hell no. China won't even allow the TikTok that we have in this country, even though it's from China, is not the TikTok they have in China. They don't have that kind of TikTok in China. It's all educational in China, right? We're putting our young men in dresses and mutilating them today. You know what China's doing? They're manning their young men up because they want them to join the military and be tough. China won't do it. but they will certainly help us. Of course they'll help us, man, because we're the enemy. Yeah. Who was it? Was it Khrushchev, I believe, who said, we don't have to worry about destroying the United States because they'll destroy themselves. This was in the 60s, man. This was in the 60s he said that. And China's going by that same philosophy. They're communists, just like the Soviet Union was. They know. They know we're going to destroy ourselves. So yeah, they'll help us. They'll export that crap to us all day long, man. They're not going to do it. India's not going to do it. India is a developing nation with 1 billion people. They're not going to do it. Pakistan's not going to do it. So yeah, you could cut all the carbon you want in this country. It doesn't do any good. They know we need to switch to all solar, in which the panels happen to be made by the company I'm a majority shareholder in for the planet, of course. They know we need to switch to all solar. Look, let me tell you something. If you want to put solar panels up, put solar panels up. That's your world, brother. I've thought about getting solar panels just for myself, and maybe even a windmill, one for the house. Individually, if you live in a rural area, I don't see a problem with it. But you cannot run an entire economy on wind and solar. Look, let me tell you something. There was a billionaire in Texas called T. Boone Pickens. He had a mansion in Dallas, and he had a ranch outside of Amarillo. He is the reason why we have these ugly-ass wind farms all over the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, Kansas, all over. He got a government subsidy to build those things. So they're all over the place out there. You can't swing a dead cat without seeing them ugly things up there. They're killing the birds. They leak oil because, hey, they need lubrication. So they leak oil out. They're not very environmentally friendly. If you go by T. Boone Pickens' ranch, he's dead now. He died a few years ago. His ranch is called the Monte Vista Ranch, north of Amarillo. You will not see one windmill. Not one. You know what you will see? Tank batteries. There's tank batteries everywhere. Tank batteries, when I say tank batteries, I mean oil wells. Oil wells. He made billions off of oil wells on his property. He also made billions off the government giving him subsidies to build these wind farms. It's a game, folks. It's a game. We're pawns in a game when it comes to crap like this. China's not going to do it, man, because it doesn't work. And the Chinese are like, it doesn't work. Why would we do it? And I'm not defending the Chinese. They're kind. They murder their own people. During the pandemic, they welded people's doors shut and locked them in their houses. I'm not defending them on that. But what I am saying is, they're not going to do anything impractical, and they know it's impractical. So why would they do it? They're not. But they'll sell it to us all day long. Why? Because they know we're stupid. You got a bunch of blue-haired wine moms running around the country telling you that you're killing the planet. You're a racist, bigot, homophobe, transphobe, whatever phobe. That is another mineral oil that I believe will never run out. They have been saying it's going to run out. Yeah, my dad was in oil field. He was a driller and a tool pusher. You're taking me down rabbit holes, man. There are some scientists today, not saying it, I agree. I'm not saying I believe them, but there are people a lot smarter than me, scientists, who say that they believe that oil may be a renewable energy, that the earth may be making more oil. I don't know. But yeah, I remember when I was a kid. Oh man, I remember when I was a kid coming home, telling my dad that my teacher said that in 10 years we're going to be riding a horse. Now I grew up, I was a kid during the oil crisis. You heard that? Yeah. And Jimmy Carter was still president. And I remember my dad son, we've got more oil under the United States alone. We're fine. The old man was smarter than I gave him credit for. I didn't realize how smart the old man was till after he died. But he's right. You know, we have plenty of oil. And is it making it? I don't know. I always thought, well, if it came from dead, I noticed they came from dead dinosaurs and decaying plants, decaying dinosaurs, decaying. Well, plants are still decaying. Animals are still decaying. Was the dinosaurs made out of something special that other animals aren't made out of? So if everything else dies and decays and gets buried under the sediment, under the ground, why can't that make oil? Why can't it just keep making oil as things die and decay? If that's where oil comes from. If. I don't know. What makes the dinosaurs so special? Were they made out of some sort of special oil material? You know, I don't know. Or maybe you should follow the money. Maybe these quote environmental groups, these green energy groups, right? A lot of money. They get a lot of government money. It's follow the money on anything. You want to know why the NAACP? I know it's kind of off the topic, but it's not. Think about it. You want to know why the NAACP supported the white woman in the governor's race in Virginia over the black woman? You think, why would the NAACP do that? That's why. They don't give a damn about black people. They give a damn about that. That's what they give a damn about. Yeah, they've been telling us for years. I just heard the other day we're supposed to go into another ice age. I'm like, what? What happened to global warming? Do you people have no shame? You just told us about global warming, dude. Now you're telling us we're going into another ice age. They have absolutely no shame. And this is why young people are out there, they have no will to live. Because they've been told their whole life that the world's going to end. And God forbid if you're a young man, because they're going to tell you you're worse than Hitler because you're a man, and how dare you even be alive. So these young men have nothing, you know, they don't feel like they have anything to live for. But yeah, they've been telling us forever, you know, we're going to die. The earth has got so many, and the date comes and goes, and we're still here. You know, I always wondered how Jehovah's Witnesses could be a Jehovah's Witness. They were screaming about that. Yeah, they were in the 70s. Jehovah's Witness, you know, part of the Jehovah's Witness thing is the world was supposed to end, I believe, in 1914, and it didn't. And the Jehovah's Witness just moved on past that. Even though their religion said, oh, the world's going to end in 1914. Think, how can they believe that? The climate people do the same thing. The world's going to end in 10 years. It doesn't end. They just move on like they never said it. Like they never said it. Oh, we didn't say that. Or, oh, well, you know, our calculations were a bit off. Man, 15 years. And they just keep kicking the can down the road. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, the 70s, it was an ice age. Well, we're back. We're back. History repeats itself. That's why you got to learn history, man, because it repeats itself, right? We're back to that. We're back to an ice age now. You know, I was in northern Colorado the other day, had the air conditioner on in the middle of November. I've yet to see snow down here. I saw a little bit in Wyoming a couple of weeks ago. That's it. That's the only snow I've seen since I left Wyoming. I mean, since I left Alaska. I live in the Texas Panhandle. We have snow by now, usually. Nothing. I think it's froze twice at the house. I had the air conditioner on here today. I'm in Kansas. So, now I hear that we're about to get a cold snap, and I'm sure we will, but yeah. Yeah, the world's going to end. We're going to run out of oil. We're at peak oil, right? Art Bell, I was talking about Art Bell earlier. I love Art Bell, but sometimes he'd go off on some of the stuff, you know. He'd have these guys, oh yeah, we're at peak oil, man. We got to do something. We've been at peak oil for decades. I don't know. You know what we do? We keep finding more oil. Now, we got better technology. We can drill deeper. We can frack now. You know, there's all kind of stuff we can do. We're getting oil out of coal deposits and things like that. That's what a lot of the Bakken is about. I live in PA and I normally don't see snow until Jan, Feb. Really? Wow. Now I live in the Texas Panhandle. We usually get snow. We can get snow around Halloween. This is what's funny about the Texas Panhandle. We'll get snow around Halloween, and we'll get snow around Thanksgiving. Christmas, it'll be 60 degrees. We never get a white Christmas. We'll get a white Thanksgiving and a white Halloween, but we won't get a white Christmas. And then January, and we'll get snow again in January and February. And I've seen the snow in April in Amarillo. So yeah, but we haven't got any yet this year. I don't think they've had any around here. Haven't had any in northern Colorado. Now the mountains in Colorado, they've had it. They had a big storm come across there. But I'm talking about, like the flatlands in eastern Colorado and such. Okay, I'm in southeast part of okay. You get closer to the coast, yeah. Get down that way, like down toward Philly and all that, Chester and everything. Got snow here in Ohio on like the 5th, earliest snow I can remember in 20 years. Yeah, the eastern part of the country, my wife's got a brother who lives in Kentucky, and they got some snow. So yeah, the eastern half of the country, y'all been getting some weather. That's there, yeah. Yeah, I used to go to Philly, was that Chester, that area down that way toward Delaware. I used to go down all off in that area back in the day. But, here in the western half of the country anyway, I haven't seen much snow at all. But we usually get, okay. But yeah, we usually get some snow by now. But anyway, my point is, we're supposed to be going into another ice age. I don't know, maybe we will. Look, the climate changes, man. It does. It changes. The Middle Ages in Europe, the reason why the Dark Ages was the Dark Ages was because they had brutal winters back then, and you had a very short growing season, and they couldn't grow enough crops to feed everybody. And so a lot of people starved in Europe back then. Europe had a much colder climate in the mid-centuries than it does today. Why? I mean, they didn't have SUVs or anything back then. They weren't destroying the planet with fossil fuels, but the climate changes. It does. It changes. I mean, anybody who's a truck driver back in the 90s, or in the 80s, we used to get a lot of ice. When I lived in Dallas back then, we used to get a lot of ice storms. We didn't get a lot of snow down there, but we used to get a lot of ice storms. They haven't had an ice storm down there in a long time. So it has been warmer than it used to be, and it might get colder. I don't know. It's going to do it. We humans are so arrogant that we think that we know everything, and that, the climate's been the same for 100 years. Well, it kind of hasn't, but okay. You know how old the Earth is? 100 years is nothing, bro. I don't know, man. Anyway, I didn't mean to go down all these rabbit holes, but I don't know. It's interesting, though, right? So maybe I'll go down some more rabbit holes. Maybe I'll get some more subscribers doing that. But it's interesting to see how the world is, the world of politics is, what's going on here, what's going on in Europe. The weather is on a pendulum swinging from one end to the other. Yeah, man, it doesn't stay the same. You know what it is? We're creatures of habit. Yeah, hot to cold, yeah. We're creatures of habit. We want to believe that everything is always the same, right? We're like those ants on a trail, right? You see the ants on the trail, and what happens? The leaf falls down and blocks the trail, and the ants freak out. And they're, what are they doing? They start piling up. And then eventually they start going around the leaf, and then they go back. That's what we are. We're like ants on that trail. And anytime something, Mother Nature, whatever, God, whatever, drops a leaf in front of us, we freak out. Like, what is this? That's the weather. Hurricanes. I see your subs bouncing back and forth. Yeah, I know. I don't know. 195. I don't know. It's like people subscribe, unsubscribe. I don't know what that's about, man. It's whatever. I don't know what to do. Maybe I need to drive the truck off a cliff while I'm videoing it or something. I can do crazy stuff like that, right? I could be like Super Dave Osborne. Remember Super Dave Osborne back in the day? I can do some Super Dave Osborne type crap or something. You know, I was telling my wife that. I said, you know, I could get more clicks and views if I drove off a cliff. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. I said, yeah, I couldn't enjoy it if I was dead, but, you know, whatever. Yeah, I don't know why. It's whatever, man. You know, I can only do what I can do. I knew when I left Alaska, I'd lose some subscribers. Everybody wants to see the haul road all the time, and I do a lot of night driving here, and I know it's not the same, and I apologize for that, but I appreciate the people who show up and, you know, and who stay. And I don't do as many some of these guys pump out videos like multiple videos a day. I'm like, dude, how do you have time for that? Right? I don't have time for that. But don't do that. Okay. Well, no, I'm not going to do it, man. I'm not going to do it. My wife would get upset if I died. She wouldn't like that. Besides, if I died, what good does it do, right? But no, but seriously, you know, some of these guys pump out multiple videos, and they edit them. They pump out multiple edited videos a day. And it's like, do you ever drive? I mean, or do you ever sleep? I don't know, man. I don't have time. I could do more videos, I guess, but I get to listen to the podcast, and I'm going down the road, and I get busy with life, and I get stopped, and then I go to bed. I used to watch Ice Road Truckers for the Ice Road. Was sad to see it end. I like a relaxing cruise and see new places. Okay, well, I understand that. Yeah, I think I saw somewhere where they're bringing that Ice Road Truckers back. I don't know. I knew. No, okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I heard they're bringing Ice Road Truckers back. I knew a couple of guys that was on that show while I was up there. I never watched the show, I'll be honest. I saw like a half an episode of it one time. It is back, but in Canada. Okay, well, they got ice up there, so that makes sense. You know, it's funny. We'd get Canadians on the Dalton, and they had absolutely no idea what they were doing. And you would think, well, they're Canadian. They should not. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. They were from Alberta and places like that. They drove on paved roads all the time. You get on dirt and gravel, and then snow on top of that, and it's a totally different world. That's what I was talking about earlier. You know, you're better off driving in the West Texas oil fields and then going to Alaska than you are driving up and down the interstate in Michigan and going to Alaska. And it's that's proof right there. We'd get these Canadian guys from like Alberta and such, and all they did was drive on paved highways. And they'd get up there and they'd get on the Dalton, and you know, they'd get on Adigan Pass or the Shelf or something, and they'd burn out. And I don't know, man. It's some of those guys, they just really had no business being up there. Not because they're Canadian, but it was always a joke up there. When you'd say, yeah, there's a truck burn out halfway up Adigan. You know, you tell a guy on the radio, oh yeah, that's some guy from Canada. And then all you had to do was say Canada. That's all I needed to hear. I mean, it was a joke about the Canadians going up there. And now, if you had the Canadian guys that were working in the oil fields in northern BC and northern Alberta, they'd probably do all right going up there. But it wasn't those guys. It was the highway guys in the highway truck, guys in their Volvos and such. And I guess they'd get a load going up to Prudhoe, and they thought, well, this will pay good. I'll go up there. And they just don't know what they're doing. And you got to know what you're doing to go up there, man. You really do. Or you go up there. I followed a guy up there, I think 2 trips, and I was forced to go by myself because something happened, and I had to go back down to Coldfoot. No, I had to go back down to Fairbanks and pick up another truck and then come back up and then meet him in Dead Horse. So after the 3rd trip, I ended up having to do it by myself anyway. Normally, you'll follow some guy for a month at least, and he's like, well, you know what you're doing. I said, yeah, it's no different than driving an oil field, man. I like when you yell at people doing dumb things like that pull in front of you. You know, and that's another thing. I really try to keep this PG, man. I really do. And sometimes I'll end a video because I know I'm about to lose it. There's been a few times. And I try not to do that, But this business, man, all I want is peace sometimes, you know? All I want is peace. I just want to go down the road in peace. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you think, okay, it's nice and peaceful. There's nobody else on the road. And then here they come. Somebody in a four-wheeler who's either half asleep or they're just bored or whatever, and they decide that they're going to come blowing around you, get in front of you, and then slow down. And then just, what I call it, catfishing. They'll just catfish right in front of you. That was a bucket list item for me, driving to Prudhoe Bay and taking toward the Arctic Ocean. Yeah, well, do it. Now, you know, that's all private property up there. Once you get to Dead Horse, going out to the ocean is private property. That's all oil field property. But I think you can schedule like a tour, because you got to go through a checkpoint. Once you get out of Dead Horse, to get up on the slope, I hated drivers that, yeah, me too. But once you get out of Dead Horse, you got to go through a checkpoint. And you have to have a legitimate reason to be up there. But I do think you can get tours up there on it. Now, you can go to other places and go to the Arctic, obviously. It's not that easy. You know, the Dalton is about the only road to the Arctic in Alaska. Now, they're building a road. They're building another pipeline, a natural gas pipeline. And then they're building another road to some mines up there. It's getting busy in Alaska. If you want to drive a truck in Alaska, now's the time, because it's getting busy up there. So I would, you know, if you want to do it, there's some companies up there that probably hire you pretty quick, as long as you got some experience. You know, if they think that they can train you to go up there, you know, and you'd make a good driver up there, they'd probably hire you. You know, so I would look into it. Yeah, you can do it on the Canadian side, but I want to do it in my own country. Yeah, I mean, you can look into it. You could probably fly to one of those villages up there and do it. As far as coming out of Dead Horse, I think you can schedule a tour, but I'm not 100% sure. Now, you get a job up there on the slope, you can do it. I mean, if you watch some of my videos, there's a couple of times, well, actually, I used to go to this one place every week. I did a couple of videos up there, though, that shows the Arctic Ocean. They're right on the Arctic Ocean. What they call a 12-mile pad, or a 12-acre pad. It's right on the Arctic. You can see it. In the wintertime, you see the ice. It's just ice out there. In the summer, you can see the water, you know. So, I can say I've been all the way to the Arctic Ocean. You know, it was an adventure, man. You know, you only live once. To have an adventure. You know, the guy I was texting earlier tonight, he was like, yeah, I'm surprised your wife lets you go up there and stay up there. Because I told him, I said, I'll go back up to Alaska for you, but I can't stay up there like I was. You know, but I wouldn't mind going back and forth. And he's like, yeah, I'm surprised your wife let you stay up there. And I said, she knew I wanted an adventure. And so she wasn't going to stop me, because she knew I would regret not going. Let me rephrase that. She didn't want me to resent her never letting me go. I started watching you since you came back down to the lower 48. Need to go back and watch. Yeah, go back and watch the videos, man. I got all kind of videos of the haul road and ice road. I got videos before that of driving in the oil field. Nobody watched me back then. I got all those oil field videos. Yeah, man. But I got all the Dalton Highway videos, going up and down the Alcan, going back and forth between Anchorage and Fairbanks. Yeah, I got a bunch of videos. Summer, winter, fall. Yeah, go back and watch it, dude. Hell yeah. It's been going on almost an hour and a half. I've enjoyed this live stream. It's been pretty. I don't have a lot of people in here, but you know, it doesn't matter. I went down a lot of rabbit holes in this one. Whew, man, a lot of rabbit holes. But yeah, go back and watch that. But anyway, what I was saying was, my wife didn't want me to resent her for, I don't say not letting me go. I'm a grown man. I can go if I want to go, but for not, she didn't want me to resent her if she discouraged me from going. You know, rabbit holes are fun. Yeah, rabbit holes are fun. You know why? Because a lot of the crap you talk about may be total BS, or there may be some truth to it. You know, that people just don't have discussions anymore. Everybody has conspiracy theories, but nobody just has discussions about things anymore. You know, we just don't. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get philosophical or anything. I'm a truck driver. I'm not supposed to have enough brains to get philosophical, right? I'm supposed to just be some dumb oaf that goes up and down the highway and whatever. But anyway, yeah. You know, my wife was like, "You want to go? Go." I'd love to go to Australia. Between the 8 and the 5, there is truth in there somewhere. Or between the B and the S. I'm sorry, I'm blind. You should go watch that video where he's leaving Dead Horse and can only see the... Oh, yeah, man, the wind was howling. Yeah, you couldn't see very far in front of you. That happened to me a couple of times. The first time I didn't video it, but the second time, yeah. That's why I have those delineators on the side of the road. So, you know, you can see how far you can see 3 delineators, 5 delineators, whatever. That's why they're there, so you can see the road and weather like that. Yeah, that was a scary one. There's nothing, you know, I can deal with just about anything. Not that I'm a Billy Badass or anything, I'm not, but I'm just saying, I can deal with just about anything as far as the weather and driving. One thing I do not like, and I guess it's pretty common sense, right? I do not like when I can't see where I'm going. Be it fog, heavy rain, snow. I've been in fog so thick that if there was something right in front of me at a dead stop, I'd have slammed right into them. Not that I was going that fast, but I'm just saying. I don't like that. I don't like snow when it's like that, and you never know what some guy in front of you is going to do. They're going to come to a complete stop or something, and you don't see them until, boom, you're on top of them. And even if you're driving slow, you still might be driving too fast. That is what I liked about driving in Germany. The road markers made it easier to see the road when the weather. Yeah, the delineators really help. They really do. Anything but terrorists. The tourist or the terrorist, yeah. I know, I got chastised for calling them that. Everybody calls them that up there. Look, man, the Dalton Highway's open to everybody nowadays. Back in the day, the old timers will tell you it didn't used to be like that. You had to have a legitimate reason to go north of the Yukon River. And back then, they didn't have a bridge. You had to either get on a hovercraft and go across the river in the summer, or in the winter when it froze thick enough, you drive across the river. And you had to have a legitimate reason. Otherwise, they turn you around right there. Now, they let anybody run the haul road. And there are some people in cars, and I've talked about this, that run it. They've been up there before. They understand trucks have the right of way. And they understand the unwritten rules of that road. And then there are some who have absolutely no idea. Absolutely zero idea. And those are the people that will get you hurt. But there's some, like I was saying earlier, there's some truck drivers the same way. They have no business being on that road by themselves, you know, without going up with somebody. No business. But they do it because they see that. Oh yeah, man, that load pays fantastic. I'm gonna take it up. You know. So yeah, the tourist or the terrorist, yeah, that's yeah, I got a little chastised for that. But you know, they don't really contribute. There's only so much they can do in Dead Horse. You can get a room at the Aurora, I guess, or the Oilfield Hotel or something, but there's like no Target up there or nothing like that. You know, like you can't really go shopping per se. Colville's got a store up there. You don't want to buy anything. It's outrageously expensive. And like I said, you can't go past Dead Horse. You can't go through the checkpoint unless you have a reason. So it's not like they're contributing a lot to the Alaskan economy up there. Now Coalfoot, they buy stuff. Now, you know, you go down to Fairbanks and, of course, down there Denali and all that. Yeah, they spend a lot of money. I'm sure they make a lot of, between, what is it, May and September, all that stuff's open. I don't think they should let just anybody going to have some dork in a Prius. You know what I saw? I saw a Prius up there, I don't think. I saw a couple of Camrys. And I got to say, Toyota should do a commercial about that. You can run a Camry up and down the haul road. without it hurting anything, you're doing pretty good, man. That's pretty good. But most people are running, SUVs or pickups, 4x4 pickups, such as that. Motorcycles, a lot of motorcycles, but they're motorcycles. At least they're not running like they're Harley up there or something like that, or crotch rockets. They're made for that kind of. A lot of European bikes, they're running up there. And I gotta say, I have a motorcycle myself, so I can't complain too much. But I do have a beef with some of these guys on bikes. But most of the ones that run in the haul road, they're pretty. They'll get out of your way. They'll stop and let you go by. They know what they're doing. They're pretty good guys. But yeah, sometimes I think they'd be better off if they, did what they used to do back in the day, where you had to have a sticker on your truck that said you're certified to run the Dalton. And if you're not, then you take it to a freight depot in Fairbanks. Take it to or that don't work there anymore. Take it to Mid-Alaska, take it to Carlisle, Alaska West, Metcalf, somebody, and let them run it up. Somebody knows what they're doing. I don't know. Tomorrow I'll start driving again. We'll see. I'm gonna stay out till Thanksgiving, and then I'm probably gonna stay out again till Christmas. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't have to stay out that long here. I can be home every weekend if I want. We have loads going to Amarillo daily. I'm just I don't want to get personal, okay? I'm just saying I've got 3 payments and my house is paid for. Yay! That is not a bad idea, having a permit. That's the way they used to do it. You used to have a sticker. That's what the old timers will tell you up there. You used to have to have a sticker on your truck. Otherwise, you could not go past the Yukon River. They let you go as far as Yukon River, and that was it. You couldn't go past that. That's the way it used to be on the Dalton. But it is a state highway, and I guess they figure they'll let anybody on it now, and that's it's whatever. Looking at the time, my wife's working tonight, but she didn't get off for a while. What was I going? Oh, what I was saying earlier. Yeah, I could be home every weekend here if I wanted, but I got 3 more payments and my house is paid off. I got some other properties around there that I bought that almost paid off, and no, I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but land is cheap in the Texas Panhandle right now, at least until they hit a well. They hit another well up there, everything will go sky high tomorrow. It'll be a boom town. But for right now, everything's cheap. That's why, I moved out of Dallas, because everybody's moving to Dallas or Austin or whatever, San Antonio, I guess. Anyway, that is an issue today. People overestimate the capabilities or just don't care. Yeah, you have a lot of guys who, I guess you could say, they're a legend in their own mind. I'm going to say this, and I may lose subscribers for it, and I don't mean it. I don't mean to be rude. But there is a difference between a lot of drivers down here and drivers in Alaska. The drivers in Alaska are more like what the drivers used to be down here. Because up there, arrogance and stupidity can get you killed. Down here, you can get away with being arrogant and stupid, and you'll probably be all right. Although it can get you killed down here too, I guess, depending on the circumstance. And you have a lot of guys down here who like to tell you all these tales about what a great driver they are. And most of it's not true. Most of it's BS. But they are a legend in their own mind. The fact of the matter is, if they went up there, they'd probably end up in the fetal position real fast. It's the guys down here that keep their head down. They do their job every day. You don't hear about them or from them. I guess you call them the unsung heroes, as they say. And they're not going to go and tell you a bunch of tall tales about, what a super trucker they are. those are the guys that can go up there and they can deal with whatever gets thrown at them. I'm not just talking about truckers, car and motorcycle drivers. Oh yeah. People in cars and motorcycles too. People in cars love to overestimate their expertise at driving, right? Guy in a Prius that can't change a tire, all about taking you on the haul road. Yeah, exactly. You better know how to change a tire, because you could probably blow one. A lot of grass, especially in the summertime. You're in a car that sits low like that. One of the reasons why we run in trucks that have a higher clearance, you get a lot of rocks and stuff that come flying up. Same thing we had same thing we had in the oil field. Similar kind of driving. They fly up. I had one hit my def line early in the summer, and I got stuck up there. Luckily, somebody had one in Dead Horse. We were able to change it out, but a rock come up and hit it. And we try to build little protections around the air dryers and the def heaters and stuff down, things up underneath the truck, but sometimes the rocks still get through. Same thing on the Alaska Highway. They have gravel patches on the Alaska Highway. You need to have a good spare and know how to use it on the Alcan. When I left Alaska, I bought this old Jeep Liberty up there, just an old beater with a heater, as they call them. And that thing got me all the way to Greeley, Colorado, but I bought an extra belt. I had a good spare. I had a jack. Of course, I had all my tools, But I brought an extra serpentine belt, because when I bought that thing, I don't know how old that belt was. I don't know when's the last time it was changed. So I said, I'm going to run over to AutoZone, spend $20, buy a belt. Throw it in the back. If I need it, I need it. If not, whatever. It's there. But yeah, a lot of people, especially a lot of four-wheelers, really overestimate their driving abilities. That's for sure. And you know what? You go back 40, 50 years, and you actually had to have some kind of skill to drive an automobile. You really don't have to have that much skill to drive one nowadays. They think if they can cut somebody off, somehow that makes them an expert on driving. But these things drive themselves nowadays. A lot of these trucks are the same way. You get these guys in here, and they get so comfortable with the truck because the truck's so easy to drive. They get a false sense of security, and that's when they mess up. I personally think they should make these trucks harder to drive. I think they should put the clutch in these trucks like they had when I started driving, where if you sat at a red light more than a couple of minutes, your legs started getting sore from trying to hold that clutch down. They should all be manual transmissions again. They should be a little more difficult to drive than they are. You'd weed out a lot of bad drivers, and you'd have to be on your toes a lot more while you're going down the road than you are now. Now you can set the cruise and kick back and, whatever. But anyway. So I don't know, maybe I'll end up going back to Alaska. Maybe not. I'll have to see what happens with this guy. See if he texted me anymore. What is your favorite make and model truck? I like Kenworth. And the reason why I like Kenworth is you have more room in them than a Peterbilt. They're just a good all-around truck. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When Western Star came out with that model they have now, that kind of looks, I thought it kind of looks like it was off the Cascadia frame, the Freightliner Cascadia frame. I thought, those trucks, those are glorified Cascadias, that's all they are. And when I was driving in the oil field, they had bought some. And I thought, they're never going to hold up. They're never going to hold up out here. The weather's, the conditions are too harsh. Modern car, any theft device, the manual transmission, yeah. But when I went to Alaska, there are a lot of companies running those Western Stars. And so we had one. Everything else we had was Kenworths. We had a couple of Peterbilts. Everything else was Kenworth. We had a couple of old Western Stars, back before Freightliner bought them. But everything else was mostly Kenworths. X15 Cummins engines. 18 speeds. But a lot of kind of Alaska West, STR, Carlisle, they're running those Western Stars. So those are tougher trucks than I thought. I was wrong about those. Must be some pretty tough trucks. Now, obviously, they're a bit more modified up there than your typical lower 48 truck. All the trucks up there are, you know, you're running full lockers up there, and you're running. I mean, they're just different. The parameters and the computers are different than they are down here, you know. But still, they're pretty similar to the oil field trucks. Those are pretty tough trucks. But I like Kenworth. I used to drive a 379 Pete back in the day. To California and back, and I like that truck, but Peterbilt gets real small real fast. If you're just going out and back and in your home, they're not too bad, but if you're going to stay out for a while, Peterbilt gets really small really quick. The 379s, the 389s, and whatever the model is now that took the 389's place. When I worked here before, I had a W990. Man, that was a beautiful truck. That was a beautiful truck. Pretty much the same inside as this 680, you know. It's like Kenworth, man. You just got a lot more room in the Kenworth, it seems like. I used to have a Freightliner Classic. I used to drive it for a guy, and that was a good all-around truck. They don't make them anymore, but those are good because you had a lot of room in them. You had the hood out in front and all that, but you had a lot of room. You know, that's one thing about Freightliner. You know, you have a lot of room in them. I owned an 85 Freightliner years ago, back in the mid-90s. That was a good old truck. Had the old 4 1/4 Caterpillar in it. They can get about, I don't know, 5 miles to the gallon if you were lucky. It'd blow most of the fuel up the stacks. That's back when fuel was 98 cents a gallon, so nobody gave a damn. And I'd run that thing 100 mile an hour to California and 100 mile an hour back, man. Just fast as hard as I could. That thing would burn coal, man. It'd blow flames out the stacks. That was a cool old truck. I don't know where it's at today. But yeah, Kenworth, I gotta say, which is PACCAR. What is it? They own PACCAR's Kenworth, Peterbilt, and I think DAF over in Europe. I think PACCAR owns them. So anyway, I see Australia, they run a lot of Kenworths over there in Australia as well. Running higher horsepower, obviously, but Mack, you know, that's one thing, I didn't see one Mack truck in Alaska. Not one. Everyone, you would see a couple of Volvos here and there, not very many. They did have a Volvo dealership there in Fairbanks. I'm not sure about Anchorage. You did see a few Volvos, not too many running the haul road per se. You didn't see any Volvos running the haul road unless there was some Canadian guy. But you would see them around Alaska here and there. Not too many of them, but in the summertime you'd see more, and those are usually guys coming up from the lower 48. But Mack, I don't think I saw one Mack truck in Alaska. I don't know what that's about. Because they're owned by Volvo, but you just didn't see them. But just about everybody else, there was a few guys running Freightliner Coronados up there. So, you know, they were older models. Well, yeah, some of them were newer models. You had a couple of guys with some older model trucks. The older trucks up there are better, without all the computers. Yeah, I don't believe the Volvo is built for Alaska. They do better in low 40. Yeah, the problem with Volvo, they had a couple of guys running them up the Dalton. They had a lot of electrical problems because of the cold. But a lot of trucks are having that now. These modern trucks, they're trying to get the regulations changed in Alaska right now, so they don't have to abide by a lot of this crap, because the cold weather just wreaks havoc on these modern trucks. They're just not. When they design these trucks, when they design these computer systems and all this, that is not designed for harsh weather. That's the thing. That's designed for going up and down an interstate in a temperate climate. Well, yeah, it might get down in the 20s, maybe 0 here and there, you know, and it's 105, 110 maybe. So, but they're not made for harsh conditions. They're made for a temperate climate and a nice paved interstate highway. That's what they're built for. And then when you take them someplace like Alaska, they just don't hold up. And you have to do a lot of modifying to them. It'd be really nice if they could delete the whole DEF system. Now, up there, they have the parameters set up to where once it gets down to -20, the DEF system shuts off. It's not deleted. It worked, but it just shuts down. You don't use any DEF. And that's totally legal, by the way. But because you still have the DEF system, it's just not working at that kind of weather. So there's that. But yeah, modern trucks just don't hold up good in those kind of conditions. That's why you shouldn't have a politician in Washington telling people in the rest of the country, they shouldn't be regulating your vehicles, because there are different things you have to worry about in different states and different parts of the country. Some bureaucrat in Washington should not be telling the truck manufacturers what they have to have on their trucks. They shouldn't be able to do that, because what works in Florida doesn't work in Alaska. What works in Texas doesn't work in New Jersey. Volvos and Mercedes-Benz of trucks. Yeah, it's funny because Mercedes used to own Freightliner, Daimler. I don't know if they still do or not. I don't know. But I see over in Europe they run a lot of those Renaults. I don't know how good a truck they are. It's the French. I'm not trying to bust on the French or anything. I'm just saying, I guess Scania is the king of the road in Europe, right? The Scanias. Everybody loves the Scanias. They're nice trucks. Scania's talking about selling trucks over here. I think they should try it. I think they would work, for certain operations. You got a guy that's going to be out 4 or 6 weeks. He probably wants a little more room than what you get in those European trucks. But if you got a guy doing short haul or regional work or something like that, I think those Scanias would be pretty cool. I mean, it's amazing what the Europeans can do. Freightliner trucks, they brand under Daimler North America. Yeah, okay, they're still owned by Daimler? Okay, yeah. That's basically Mercedes. Yeah, I mean, you used to be able to get Mercedes engines in them. I don't know if you still can or not. But anyway, it's amazing to me what the European truck makers can fit in those smaller cabs. And I get it. You need room. It's Europe. There's a lot of very narrow, tight roads. You can't have some big, long, stretched out truck like you have over here or in Australia or somewhere. So, but it's amazing what amenities they can squeeze into those cabs. Those guys got all the comforts of home, man. They don't have a lot of room compared to American trucks, but they still have all the comforts of home in there. And so I think Scania would work over here. I don't know. I mean, I would like to see it. The Renault probably surrenders as soon as it drops off free. Yeah, the Renault, yeah, they probably do. Yeah, they're all cab overs over there pretty much. I have seen a couple of guys import American trucks over there, but I've also seen, watching guys like Ned Kelly and stuff like that over there, that if you had a truck with a hood in front of it, there's just someplace you just wouldn't be able to get around. They're just not practical over there, and I get that. That's why I say I understand why they are the way they are over there. They don't have a lot of room, but at the same time, they do a damn good job of, getting all the comforts of home. They got a lot of cabinet space, man. You look at those cab overs above the where the driver sits. I used to drive when I lived in Germany 25. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You know what I'm talking about then. Like above where the drivers sit, there's all kind of cabinets up there, man. And they got a microwave up there. I mean, they utilize every inch of the cab of the truck in those European trucks. So some of the stuff they've got, we don't have. It's amazing what they can do with those trucks over there, with the limited amount of room that they have. So I'm really impressed. I think, Scania's talking about it. I think they should do it. I think they should, they already sell marine engines over here. So kind of maybe go in with another truck maker over here like Freightliner or one of them, I don't care, Volvo, whoever. And I probably wouldn't go with Volvo. That's competition in Europe, but, get in with another truck dealer over here for maintenance and such. And, I don't know, sell a few over here, see what happens. I think people would buy them. I think they would. I think they're pretty cool looking trucks myself. A lot of guys in America don't like them, but, when I started driving, we all had cab overs. That's all they had over here. You either drove a cab over and you made a decent living, or you went to work for some guy who had conventionals and you made crap. And he'd tell you, well, you're driving a nice fancy truck. Well, yeah, that's great, but I can't make my electric bill with that. I can't tell the electric company, well, I can't pay this month when I'm driving a fancy truck. They don't really go for that. So, but that's all. We all drove, most of us anyway, drove cab overs. That was the thing. They were cheap. They were all over the place. And you couldn't sell them. Like J.B. Hunt, Schneider, they were all, they were just stripped down trucks. They had no engine brake in them. I think back then J.B. Hunt didn't even have stereos in their trucks. Go to Mercedes-Benz trucks to see what they look like today. I guess I have seen a few in some YouTube videos. I'm not a big Mercedes fan, so, but yeah, we they would try to sell those old JB Hunt trucks. They ended up having to send them down to Mexico. I mean, there were Cadillacs in Mexico, but up here nobody wanted to buy them. And I think that's why they started really kind of going to conventionals, because there was no resale value. Now you see an old cab over and it's cool. Now some cab overs are cool, like Warner had good cab. Warner had those Kenworths with the double bunks cab overs, and those are nice. I wouldn't mind having one of those. And of course over in Europe they're flat floor, so they can get up and walk, whatever. You don't have the doghouse in the middle like the old trucks. And before they got rid of them, Schneider was buying cab overs like that with the flat floor. Those are a little more livable. But I spent a lot of my first years driving, crawling in and out of the bed, crawling over the doghouse, getting down, laying down, putting my clothes on. I did a lot of that back in the day, man. These guys today coming out of truck driving school and they get a decent looking truck. Do you remember BJ and the Bear? Yes, I saw that. Look, BJ and the Bear. I was sitting at the Pilot in Tucumcari, New Mexico. I've got pictures. I need to put them out here. I still got pictures of this. And it's red and white Kenworth. I'm sorry. I think y'all lost me for a second. Anyway, I was sitting. I don't know if you heard this. I was sitting at the Pilot in Tucumcari, New Mexico. All of a sudden, this red and white cab over comes rolling in. Kenworth. And I'm like, truck looks familiar. It had Billy Joe McKay, Milwaukee, Wisconsin on the side of it. I said, that's the BJ and the Bear truck. Well, I got to talking to the dude. That guy's son owned the BJ and the Bear truck. And it was signed by Greg Evigan, BJ. I got to get up in the truck. He let me get in the truck and I saw where he signed it on the visor. Yes, way. It's out there, bro. I've got pictures. I'll try to remember to post them on here. I'll try to get that done here in the next couple of days. I've still got them in my phone somewhere. Yeah, I've got them in here. I got to talking to the dude. His son owned the truck. He also owned the Sonny Pruitt truck from the TV show Moving On. Remember the green Kenworth conventional? Yeah, he had that truck as well. Yeah, it was really sweet. Let me see if I can find the pictures real quick and I'll put them on the screen here. Or I'll just put my phone up to the screen. They're way back here. This was a few years ago now. Well, I gotta go back further than that. Yeah, that show. Yeah, my wife had a thing for Greg Evigan, so she liked BJ and the Bear. But it was a cool show, man. Back in the day. But yeah, moving on with Claude Akins. Yeah, that was a good show. We used to watch it. I've got the picture. Let me see if I can find them. I've got so many pictures in this phone of crap that I could probably delete. What the hell is that? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I'll find it, but we're showing our age. Yeah, we are. Yeah, I know. I'm old. I can't help it. I'm getting older. But, dang it, I know I've got pictures of it somewhere. My God, that was like 2020. So I need to go back a ways. But yeah, the guy rolled in. It was the father of the guy that owns them. And he said they were on some reality show at one time where they rebuild trucks or whatever. And this guy's a owner-operator, but he's got, I guess he makes good money doing it. And he bought those two trucks and he restored them. And this guy was the father, and he just runs around in the summer. He doesn't drive it in the winter. He just runs around in the summer with it. But he's a nice guy. I talked to him for a long time. He's a really cool guy. I've got these pictures. My God, I've got a lot of pictures in here I need to get rid of. I got pictures in here. I don't know even what half this crap is even about. Is that it? No, that's not it. I know it's not very exciting. Not very exciting live stream at the moment. Just give me a minute. Well, crap. I got a bunch of Smudge the Cat memes in here. Need to get rid of half of those. Well, did I pass them? I don't know. I have to go back here. I've got them somewhere. I probably have them in my Facebook because I know I posted it on my Facebook when I saw it. So that's what I'll have to do. Do you have a bunch of Facebook political memes saved? Yeah, I do. I do. Let me see. I've got those pictures somewhere, man. I'll have to find them. I'm not going to bore y'all with that right now. It's just bugging me now, though, because I have them in here, and it's going to bug me until I find them. I like posting memes for both sides. Yeah, that's always fun. You know, I don't know. I'll have to find them. I had them, man. I don't know what I did with all of them. Let's see if I got them in my uploads. Well, crap. Oh, there's some Alaska stuff. But I've already got a bunch of that. You've already seen all that Alaska crap. But these, man, that was a long time ago. I was really surprised when I saw it too, you know, because he told me that they found it in Georgia, like in somebody's backyard, the truck, and it was just kind of rusting away, like they weren't doing anything with it. And that's the thing a lot of people don't understand. A lot of these truck shows, they'll use someone's truck, like the trailers they use in Smokey and the Bandit. You know, the snowman was driving with the stagecoach on there. I used to see that trailer in Dallas all the time. That was owned by someone, and they used it in the movie, and then the guy who owned it was using, you know, driving it around again, you know. It was work. That's what he was using it for. So a lot of those trucks are actual trucks that are being used, you know, in commerce, as it were. I know I'm getting close. That's oil field stuff. There's some ducks. Well, I got pictures of ducks. I don't know. These wedding pictures. My God, man. Been married 100 years. I got wedding pictures. Anyway, I'll try to find them. Alright. It's 9:30. I guess I'll go ahead and end this now. Losing my voice. I don't do this much talking. You know, you're out here by yourself. You don't do a lot of talking. So, but I really enjoyed it, man. We'll have to do another one of these really quick. I enjoyed it. Went down some rabbit holes and talked about some things. And yeah, went over 2 hours. So let's do it again. Look, you know, before I leave, I'd like for you to like and subscribe and share my videos, because I want to get it out there, what we do, what's going on in our business, what we need to do to fix it. And it's not just trucking. Like we were talking about oil earlier, that affects us, right? Because we use diesel. We use oil for lubricants. We use oil for tires. You know, just about everything. It's all needed. So let's you know, let's help each other out here, you know. Like, subscribe, share. I'd really appreciate it. You know, I'm really trying to get this stuff out here to the people. We really need to fix our industry. So, anyway, I see people are dropping off. I appreciate you watching. And we'll do it again real soon. And thank you.